This is gonna take crackerjack timing, Wang.
Total concentration. You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and we're getting to another one of these Rona updates on the channel. And like I promised before, I am here with a visitor to talk about some of the new updates. This one's actually a little bit bigger, a little bit more important than the last one. Perch, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Hanging in there like all of us. So thanks for having me on. Well,
I appreciate, we've mentioned before, it seems like the news is never ending, and we want to definitely keep up on top of it and let the viewers know what's going on. So we got two things to talk about today. Marvel Comics are cutting 1/3 of their May and June comics that they plan to produce. And then IDW has a couple of cancellations. So first, I'm going to read the article from CBR.com's Noah Dominguez, and then Perch and I will talk about it, and then we'll read the IDW articles from Newsarama and talk about those. With the comic book industry still in a tough spot amid the crisis, Marvel Comics has announced it will be pausing work on and the release of about 1/3 of its May and June issues, effective immediately. Marvel told Newsarama this decision was made in order to help spread the amount of publishing product over the coming weeks and months. The company did not reveal the specific titles that will be affected by this change, nor did it reveal when it plans to resume publishing the unaffected books. In a follow-up statement to CBR, Marvel clarified the 1/3 number, explaining the books being put out or on hold are actually 15 to 20% of the title count, but considering double ships that month, it works out to be about 1/3 of the issue count. Per Newsarama, the House of Ideas has already informed the creators attached to the affected comics of its decision. Marvel assures all talent will be paid for their work to date. With the ongoing crisis putting comic book shops in a predicament since day one, Marvel was among the slew of publishers that attempted to take some of the pressure off retailers, offering deep discounts on its titles. However, with the news that Diamond Comic Distributors would be temporarily closing its doors and that no physical comics with an on-sale date of April 1 or later would be shipped, things became more complicated. Publishers were dealt another blow when it was revealed Diamond's payments would also cease for the time being. Comic Code proposed a temporary digital-first distribution system for major publishers amid the turmoil, though that initiative is no longer moving forward. So we talked about a bit of this, but the news about Marvel curtailing its May and June line and halting work on those books is definitely new. I know there's a lot of theories out there that maybe this is all about, ideological lines and things like this. It feels like this is a numbers move. They don't have the production capability, and they're going to have a ton of back issue books that were already in the pipeline coming out. They just didn't see the distribution avenues being able to handle the workload.
Yeah, I think there's unfortunately it's not going to be on ideological lines. It's going to go across the board, and it's purely logistics. It's the fact that you have too many comics that are kind of in a holding pattern right now, and at some point this wall breaks and comics start flowing out to comic shops again, and you can't just suddenly tell all these comic shops that have been forced to live without revenue for 2 months maybe, hey, by the way, here's 200 comic books in a week. I mean, that won't work. It tips over the whole system. So there has to be a way to stage this stuff. There has to be a way to control that pipeline. You've got demand pent up, and you also have just a scheduling problem where you have comics come. If Marvel continued to just produce during this out time, they would just and they will in a few cases they would just continue to build up this volume of books with no clear sign of how to get them into shops. So what Marvel does not want to do is say in June or whenever comics start regularly flowing back again, Marvel doesn't want to get the bad press of comic shops saying, hey, Marvel, which was already getting complaints of having too many comics on the shelves. And now they've increased that by 20% more as they catch up. And every comic is double shipping, and they burn through all that right away. So this was going to happen. It's pragmatic. They're going to reduce some of their line. They were going to have to put some things on hold. They're going to have some that just go to digital, which we hear is coming very shortly, that some of these comics will just become digital only as a way to kind of keep things moving along. That's to be expected, and it's not necessarily a sinister plot. It's not going to cut across any particular ideology. It's going to be mainly sales driven and mainly scheduling driven.
Yeah, so I also see, the longer this goes on, because it's completely uncertain right now. This is just the first measure. The longer this goes on, the more they're going to have to curtail that stuff, because obviously they're going to still be working on Spider-Man Venom, some of their bigger books. But eventually, if they get so much piled up, they're going to have to stop all production really and just wait it out and wait for something to happen, right?
That's right. And I think 6 to 8 weeks is the max they can kind of stretch this out. Now, maybe some people, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're at Marvel and you have this idea of, let's keep Spider-Man going, let's keep Venom going, let's keep maybe the core Avengers titles, some of the X-Men titles coming up. And we see this double shipping that we got with Dawn of X when it came out late last year. We see that just continue with the X books for the rest of the year. I think that's quite likely, but you can't have that plus all of the different Empire spinoffs and just the various limited series that they're starting to produce. I mean, if you're talking about the 5-issue Power Pack or the 5-issue New Warriors as part of Outlawed, where does that title find any breathing room amongst all this other stuff? So I think you'll see for the majority of 2020, when comics start moving again, you'll see a lot more volume of their core big selling comics, and you'll see the others either get halted or paused or move to digital, and you'll just see that migration. But I mean, it's a numbers game. It's pure logistics.
We know that Outlawed was an event that they were right in the middle of. Empire was right around the corner when this happened. We know Ten of Swords was right around the corner. They were going to be introducing, I believe, a Venom event and a Spider-Man event, in their free comic book day. And there's supposed to be a second X-Men event, coming in the pipe, in this year. Do you see them, maybe trying to stretch these events out as well and maybe kick some of those down the road, maybe till next year, and not try and condense all of this? Because we already have event fatigue right now. They can't crunch. I don't think they're going to be able to crunch everything into 2020 anymore.
No, I agree. I think the second X-Men event that was supposed to hit at the end of the year will slip into 2021. I definitely think that's true. I think that some of the things they were trying to do to schedule around the movies, the movies all shifted. So some of their plans for the Eternals move now as well. Maybe some of the things for Doctor Strange. Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of that stuff go on, and you're just going to see some movement. It's hard to predict exactly where things go, but like I said, I think you're going to see a focus on really the core titles. The titles are selling well. You're going to see them move to twice a month while they kind of catch up and keep going. And the benefit to that is they have their stronger titles out on the shelves, the titles that people are really clamoring for and want. And I think some of the big crossovers, the things that were supposed to include the other tie-ins, will just get delayed. And hopefully through all this, there's at least a pause where people go, do we really need all these tie-ins? Maybe this doesn't make the most business sense to have an Empire with 30 attached books that are auxiliary. Maybe that was never a good model. I'm hoping that happens.
Or hey, maybe these Empire tie-ins end up being digital only just releases, and it eases the burden on comic book shops and people that really want that extra content. There's a place for them to go and find it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a portfolio manager at Marvel right now and you're looking at your comics and you're looking at digital and you're looking at how to juggle the two, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world to use digital as a marketing and a feeder attempt. What if the core event was published and the core parts of that story were printed, and all of these, weird tie-ins? You think about War of the Realms and all the little books that kind of popped out as 1, 2, or 3 issue kind of connections into that event that really didn't matter. What if those were all just digital? And you think about Marvel's digital play like Disney Plus, where you get this bonus content there. I mean, that would be a great idea. I don't know if there's any money in that, but as a reader, that would be a great idea.
Well, it gets more exposure for Comixology or Marvel Unlimited, and maybe drive some people to go and check out that app, and they find out they like it, because if somebody really loves an event, they're going to go and find the extra material. So I think this is an opportunity to find out and maybe test some of these digital strategies that basically have been non-existent.
Yeah, I think so. I hope they would go that route. I mean, it's a cool story. If you think as a reader, you come in and you say, hey, are you really loving War of the Realms? Well, you can get an extra 200 pages of content on the Marvel Unlimited app. You should subscribe and you can get the full story. Yeah, do that.
So let's move on to the next set of topics. This is actually 2 different articles from Newsarama.com concerning some IDW titles. We've talked about IDW on the channel. The first one is about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of going on hiatus. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles writer-artist Sophie Campbell has tweeted that IDW Publishing has instructed her to stop production on the series for now, with plans to stop after issue 105. I got word that production is stopping, so TMNT is done for now, said Campbell in a tweet. I'm going to finish up issue 105. Then that's it. See you guys on the other side. Issue 105 through 107 have been solicited to come out, starting with 105 on May 6th. It's unclear when or if production of the series will resume, and if so, if Campbell will be involved. Many publishers are pausing or shifting production schedules due to supply chain interruptions caused by the crisis, including Diamond Comics Distributors' ongoing closure. The other article is about G.I. Joe. Writer Larry Hama has revealed that IDW Publishing has told him to suspend any current writing work on his long-running G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero series. I've just got pencils down on a storyline I've been doing for 275 issues, Hama wrote on Facebook. This is a hiatus at present. I'm wrapping up the end of Snake Hunt so that it will be ready to go into the shoot once the smoke clears. Hama didn't disclose a specific reason work has been suspended, although it's almost certainly due to the effects of the ongoing crisis having on the direct market comic book industry. The current Snake Hunt story arc is solicited to end July 15th with G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero 275. Issue 271 was scheduled to come out April 1st before Diamond stopped shipping. Maybe by themselves, they seem somewhat innocuous, but when you add them together, as the ongoing tapestry of IDW's issues, being $200 million in debt. Then we had Netflix re-upping Lock and Key, for season 2, but canceling V-Wars and October Faction, which we kind of actually expected all three of those to happen. And now they're starting to put some of their more long-running, bigger name titles on hiatus. It's not looking good for IDW.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I think there's two ways to look at this. The first is just kind of, again, pragmatic. They don't know when they're going to be able to ship these comics out. So calling a halt or a pause is to be expected. There's nothing necessarily ominous about that. Everybody's doing that, including the big guys are doing that. So this idea that, hey, hold off until we know more. Yeah, I think that's to be expected. But as you mentioned, in the bigger picture, with what IDW is kind of suffering through and the news from Netflix and kind of the question marks about their future, and the way some of these announcements were made from Hama and others have a bit more of a sense of finality to them, not just a, hey, we're pausing for now. Maybe this is just the people writing, for sure. Everybody's got their own kind of style of how they're announcing these things, and a lot of comic creators who live month to month are struggling with this. But you wonder how much is going on behind the scenes. You wonder if it's going to come back and when it comes back. I think IDW, it did not have big cash reserves. It was not they were banking on some of these Netflix deals, and going to get more money out of their investors is going to be very tough at this time, because a lot of people are trying to get money out of investors. They've got an old and long in the tooth business model. It's not going to help them get more cash. So I think that there's definitely some warning signs here. I hope it all comes back. I hope it's just a temporary pause because of what's going on with the Rona, but we will see.
Yeah, this is a terrible time, to be needing money, because when you look at people out there with like liquid assets and that are ready to buy into this market, because it is very down. You have things like Disney at 5 and 10-year lows. If you wanted to get in on some of that, comic book industry, maybe some comic book movie kind of franchises, there's no better place to go. And you can get those, you can buy into those companies at very cheap prices right now. And when you look at IDW and the way that their company currently looks, and the IPs that they have, it just doesn't look great. And you're right, the tone of those messages were very dire. And I get that. I think everyone's probably, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. I think a lot of people, when they're getting these calls, are probably thinking the worst. And I do hope it comes back, but I've mentioned multiple times that I want to be honest with people. I don't want to blow smoke. I do think we're going to lose some publishers, and
yeah,
IDW really seems like a prime candidate.
I think they've got a troubled model, and if you're an investor, you're probably thinking that you need to shed some of these properties that they've got. I don't know. I think that if you're a creator, you live month to month, this is a definite, how are you going to make ends meet now for a couple months, and what happens, and some of the rules around kind of freelance money and what you can do and what unemployment looks like and all the rest. I mean, there's some troubles there. So it is bothering a lot of people. It's hurting a lot of people. At the same time, yeah, it's hard not to read into their statements a little bit more, because unlike other creators who said, hey, bad news, we were told to stop, working for now and to halt production. Their announcement sounded a lot more like this is the end of the run, not just this is a pause in the run. And maybe it's just the way it was worded. I hope so.
The good news is, for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fans, that series is absolutely going to be coming back because it's the second best selling indie comic in the entire industry as far as ongoings go. About 10,000 units behind Spawn last time I checked, and it was just a little bit above Undiscovered Country from Image Comics. And there's another one that's kind of vying for that number. Of course, when Saga comes back, they'll all move down one if it comes back. It's been almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
And as far as G.I. Joe, that is a brand name, worldwide recognition as far as G.I. Joe. People are going to want to pick up those licenses if they do become available.
Yeah, they will. I mean, we will see these comics again in one form or another, but quite possibly from a different publisher. I think that the ability to survive this is going to put a lot of small publishers to the test, and we'll see.
Well, Perch, thank you so much for joining me today, talking about the implications of Marvel's announcement and of IDW's. Is there anything else that you needed to say before we wrap this up?
No, just if you have comics at your shop, please at least let them know or give them a call and find out when they can come pick it up. That's important. And keep your head up. We will come through this on the other side. We absolutely will. So keep your head up. Stay healthy. Stay safe. Avoid that test. Sucks.
Yeah, don't take that test. Perch has got nightmares about that thing.
That test is terrible.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.